This is Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Mitch Lafon.
Welcome to another episode of Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon here on Westwood One. Joining me this week, well, it doesn't get more exciting than this. I mean, I have been a Bon Jovi fan since their Fahrenheit album back in '85. So I have got Richie Sambora, and it is very, very exciting. It is post Hall of Fame, and so we talk about that. We talk about his new album with Orianthi, Radio Free America, and then I'm going to present to you a new band, a band called Bad Wolves. They have a new album called Disobey that actually comes out this Friday. We have a great chat about that, and yes, my favorite person at the end here, we have got George Thorogood, who enjoys calling me Montreal Mitch. Whenever I see him, it's just, hey, Montreal Mitch is here. And listen, I have no problem with the great George Thorogood calling me that. His last album, Party of One, came out in 2017, which is just him, totally stripped down, definitely worth checking out. He is on tour with $1 of every ticket sold going to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Foundation. So always great when artists get involved and support a cause like that. But before that, before we get to all these great interviews, once again, co-hosting this week from the great Firehouse, it is the one, the only, Bill Leverty. Bill, always a pleasure to have you on.
Man, the pleasure's mine, Mitch. Thank you so much for having me on this show of yours where you have such great interviews with such great musicians, A-list people. You're getting them all the time. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And of course, I like to always support everybody. And so if you could head out there, folks, and support Bill, Leverty.com. He's got a new 2-for-1 song, memorable and love is a love song. So Bill, 2 songs for $1. I mean, wow, that's a deal. That is a
thanks,
deal.
man. I want to make it so everybody can get a copy. So I'll make it easy. $1. The website automatically sends you 2 songs. So thanks for mentioning it.
And I love that because what I've always loved about Firehouse is that you and George, quite frankly, is that you've always been very fan friendly. You go to a Firehouse show, there's no egos. If somebody wants to get an autograph or a picture, you guys have always been yep. And here you've got 2 songs. You could probably do $1.99 each and milk a fan for $4. I mean, they'd get their money's worth, obviously, because the songs are great. But you go, no, you know what? Here, 2 for 1. Come on. And
well, don't get me wrong. If people want to donate, $500, they're welcome to do so.
Right, but still. But Radio Free America, we've got Richie Sambora. He's got this new album out with his partner in crime, Orianthi, who, of course, had spent some time playing for Michael Jackson and Alice Cooper, and just a fun album. It came out on May 11th, and what a thrill to talk to a guy from Bon Jovi for me. Now, talk to me a little bit about, as a guitarist point of view, because whenever you do these lists or these magazines do lists, Richie doesn't get on those lists very often, or if he does, he doesn't get very highly. But I think that his guitar playing was not only essential to Bon Jovi, but it was essential 80s playing. A lot of bands after Bon Jovi hit, after You Give Love a Bad Name hit, people tried to capture that sound. And if you're trying to capture that sound, that means the guy's obviously doing something right. I mean, right? Help me out with this. How do you rate him?
Well, to me, he's top shelf A-list guitar player by far. And not only his technique and his songwriting put him there, but to me, his soloing is always the perfect solo for the song. And guitarists are often tempted to show how fast they can play or shred here or do this trick there.
Yeah, doodle.
Doodle. Richie always put the perfect balance of a really cool melody with really cool energy into his solos that made his soloing so good. And I got to tell you, he is just a phenomenal songwriter. I mean, those songs that they wrote, everybody, was affected by them in the 80s. I was certainly influenced by him quite a bit. And I met him a few times, and he was one of the coolest, huge rock stars I'd ever met in my life.
Yeah, and he's also a genuine rock fan, and you're right about the songwriting. You look at a band like Bon Jovi, and a lot of people go, "Oh, they're a hair metal band, blah 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 blah, fluffy, fluffy, fluffy." It's like, yeah, well, they sold 130 million copies. They're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and you tell me how many better songs have been written than "Wanted Dead or Alive" or "Living on a Prayer." And we're talking to this genre. I don't want to hear people say, "Well, Elvis and the Beatles." Yeah, listen. They wrote some of the greatest American rock songs, iconic songs, and Richie, as much as John, I mean, they were an unbeatable team. Did Bon Jovi? Do you look at them as having opened the door for Firehouse in the sense of they made the genre popular and they made that kind of music popular, and that led to bands of that second wave like Firehouse to have the door open and like, hey, thank you, John, thank you, Richie, for having done that?
Absolutely, without question. And I'll go a step further, that when I was working in a music store trying to get a record deal, I was able to get backstage at a Bon Jovi show because my boss was doing a promotion kind of thing. And I gave John and Richie our band's demo tape at the time. And they sent out their security guy, a guy named Danny, to find me in the crowd at the Richmond Coliseum of 15,000 people, or whatever. It was sold out. And he found me and he said, "John wants to meet you tomorrow."
Wow.
And so John and Richie met the whole band the next day and said he really liked the demo tape and he was going to work with us. So he actually sent our demo tape to Derek Schulman, who, for those who don't know, he's probably one of the most powerful A&R guys in the business. Still
very influential. Oh yeah,
very, very powerful A&R guy. And Derek, he said he heard some good songs, didn't hear any killer songs, but he really, took interest in us. But the things that I remember in us meeting with John, and John met with us every time he came into town back then. He took a meeting with us and invited us backstage to talk to him. Was that after John and Richie were done talking to us, John would leave and go do some other stuff, and Richie would talk to me for an hour about guitar tone and about songwriting and about technique, and he was just so gracious with his time and such a cool guy. So I'll never forget what a cool dude Richie Sambora was to me, and how he not only, he and the Bon Jovi, the whole band, helped our genre out so much, but he really helped me, and he helped everybody in our band a whole lot, and I can't thank him enough.
Yeah, and that's great to say, because I've been backstage and you haven't, and people always give a demo and stuff, and a lot of bands, I will see them as they walk out, they'll toss it into the closest bin, and the fact that they actually took the time to listen and then take it further and get a meeting, I mean, that just speaks volumes at what kind of people they are. And it's just
well,
great.
He was also brutally honest, where, he'd say, "Hey, I don't hear that song as being good. You need to make this better." And whereas a lot of people they don't want to hurt your feelings.
Right.
They're nice people. Richie was a nice guy, and he could also kick me in the butt and make me work harder. So,
yeah, and that's what you need.
That's exactly what everybody needs, but it's hard to do. It takes a great personality to be able to pull that off.
Yeah, I so agree with that. So let us get into this interview. It is a dual interview. I do have Richie and Orianthi on the line, and so therefore we cover everything. We talk about did Huey McDonald, or Hugh McDonald, I should say, actually play on the albums, or was it Alec? Wait for that answer. We talk about the Hall of Fame, we talk about the new album, Radio Free America, and of course with Orianthi, we talk Michael Jackson and Alice Cooper. We've got it all covered. So without further ado, here is the one, the only, Richie Sambora, and the one, the only, Orianthi. We are speaking with RSOs Richie Sambora and Orianthi. The new album is Radio Free America, available now. Pleasure to talk to you both. I've been a fan, in fact, of both of your careers. Richie, of course, with Bon Jovi. Orianthi, I got to know you when you were with Alice Cooper. You did a great job there. Just great to see new music.
We've been fanning ourselves. Yes, we're fanning.
Yeah, yeah, but it's great to have new music from you guys. So, talk to me about working collaboratively because, of course, you've done solo albums, Orianthi. You've done solo albums, Richie. Talk to me about sort of bringing the two of you together and working in collaboration.
Well, it's a new sound we've
Right.
created, and we're really excited about it. And with Bob Rock in the mix as well. I mean, it's just something that we're really proud of, and it's powerful. It's got great messages behind the songs. I mean, there's something for everybody, I think, on this record, and it's pretty diverse. But at the same time, it's really cohesive with our sound that we created with our vocals and guitar playing together.
Yeah. So talk to me about that because you can't So there, right? So talk to me about this because you can't call this album a rock album or a country album or a jazz album or a blues album. You've got these influences from everywhere. Was it just that this was the first one and you sort of wanted to get all the influences on there? And talk to me also about working with Bob Rock. Of course, Richie, you haven't worked with him since Keep the Faith. Talk to me about bringing Bob.
Keep the pace.
Keep the yeah, because he was of course known for the big bombastic Motley Crue, Aerosmith and stuff. Talk to me about having him come in here and capture these sort of more bluesier sounds and softer sounds.
The other thing that happened was Ori and I became so prolific at a time that we needed somebody to come in and sift through the stuff and help us just pick out what was going to actually happen, because we had just a wealth of stuff that we had written over a period of time. And, we just decided that we were going to just try a bunch of different stuff that we always wanted to do. Both of us love every genre of music that we made our foray into as an artist. Basically, it worked, and we were able to actually keep a sonic palette that was consistent to what our sound was, so we don't lose you, So that's not the easiest thing to do. So basically, that's almost like a 3-album foray to get to our record. So our first record was like we were together for 3 years already. So.
Right. So talk to me about this. Is this RSO a project and a band that is going forward and there'll be a second and third one? Or is this sort of, we're collaborating now and then next year or in 2020, Richie, you go and do another solo album and Orianthi, you go off and do another solo album? How do we, or is it sort of, can both exist at the same time?
I honestly think both can exist at the same time. Yeah, because, this is a new sound we've created together. And hopefully that, we get a lot of fans that love, what we do together, and then, we've got songs on there that Richie sings solo and then I sing solo. And then, in the future, who knows, it's kind of like three things in one everyone gets, you know what I mean? So if Richie released a solo record, I do, or we make another RSO record, which we will do. I mean, we have so many songs we've written together, so that will definitely happen, and I'm proud of the songs we're writing now too together, So there's a lot of stuff that people expect musically, everything from us, in the future. It's kind of wide open. I think that's the cool thing about it, support each other and all of that.
Yeah, it really is important to support each other. Just quickly talk to me a little bit about Bob Rock and what he brings to the table in terms. I know he sifted through all these different songs, but as a producer, what does Bob bring? Because we know that he did a greatness with Metallica's Black Album. We know Motley Crue, Dr. Feelgood, and Keep the Faith, of course. Talk to me a little bit about what he brings and why choose Bob as the producer for this.
Well, when you look at Bob, first of all, obviously Bob and I have a track record together, and he was very much a part of being a producer on Slippery and also New Jersey, as so was I. And so we did a lot of work on those records, and obviously Keep the Faith was a big departure for Bon Jovi right in the middle of the grunge period. So that being said, we conquered a lot of stuff together. And actually, the night I met Ori, I hadn't seen him for years, and that's when we hooked up back then. But it took about 2 years to actually start working together again. And you have to understand, this is the thing. When you say, he's well known for Motley Crue and Metallica, he just produced a Michael Bublé album that did 12 million records.
True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
true.
The arc of what he does is insane, and he's probably responsible for about 350 million records on this planet as a producer, writer, artist, whatever. And he knows a lot about a lot of stuff. And he's like a brother, you know. Lived here at the house, recording in the kitchen for a long, long time now.
Yeah, and also a great Canadian. Orianthi, I want to talk to you just quickly about your time with Alice Cooper. That's where I first met you. That's where we first interviewed. Talk to me about getting that gig, and what do you learn from a seasoned veteran like Alice Cooper in terms of putting on a show, in terms of theatrics, in terms of, because folks forget that even if Alice is doing costume changes, the band is always on stage, and there's no break for the band. Just talk to me about working with Alice and what that experience meant for you personally, professionally, and so on.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, I learned a lot. It's a full-on show, you know. It's like a theater production. We have, you know, you got like real swords going on. You got freaking boa, constrictors coming out there. You got, you know, pythons. You got freaking blood and guillotines and you know, and Alice is always on. It's 100% every night, you know. And the band, we rehearse for months before we go out too. We're choreographed. All the guitar parts, you know, are harmonized. There's a lot that goes into that full production. I mean, you know, a lot. And I loved it. You know, it's something different. You take on a character role as well. I played an irritable zombie, so I had blood all over me every night. Pretty much celebrated Halloween for 3 years straight. It was complete Halloween every night. And it was great, you know, because people, you take them away from reality. So if you're able to put on a show like that, you feel good about it and being part of something. And Alice is the nicest person in the world, and he introduced me and Richie. So, you know, we'll always be family, and I loved being a part of that for that period of time. And, yeah, it was definitely a great experience, for sure. And
as a fan, I'll just say it was nice to see you move on and go with Richie, because as a fan, I think what you and Richie are doing together is absolutely phenomenal, and having Nita go over to Alice was phenomenal. So for fans, it's a win-win. It really is.
Yeah.
Richie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure.
Richie, quickly, obviously we're coming off the heels of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. Talk to me about the heels of it. I know. But just talk to me about that, because I'm a diehard Bon Jovi fan. I have followed the band since since Fahrenheit 7800, since, you know, She Don't Know Me and all that. Bought everything.
Oh, thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's crazy the amount of Bon Jovi CDs I have downstairs. But talk to me about this Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, because as fans we go, well, when they were first eligible, it should have been a no-brainer, blah, blah, blah. And of course, you waited and you waited and you waited. But now that it happened, what was it like? Does it validate? Is it just like, meh? Talk to me about the experience and what it means.
You know what? Anytime you get an award, it's really, really nice. And honestly, I wasn't holding my breath, you know what I'm saying? Because, you know, we've been looked over a couple times, but I wasn't really thinking about it. It wasn't something that it was on my mind. It was, you know, RSO is what's been, you know, taking the forefront now for a bunch of years in a row. And so it was a lot of fun to get back and play. It was like all week, you know. The kids saw each other, and we saw the kids and hung out with each other. It was actually pretty cool. It wasn't like it wasn't awkward or anything like that, and, you know. So it's just kind of you know, a band is like a caste system sometimes. You just kind of lay into it the way it was. And don't forget, I was there for 31 years. So it was actually easy, fun.
Yeah, 31 great years. And it was fun to see as a fan. Now, I quickly mentioned 7800. And if I can just ask you a question about that. To me, it's an album that has been overlooked in the band's catalog, in your discography. Why do you think that album didn't get sort of the respect 15, 20 years on, where the band stopped playing songs?
First of all, I thought it was not mixed and produced well. And that being said, is because our producer at the time had double booked himself. So he's working double shifts. He's working with us during the day and another band at night. So that really kind of made things a little tense, obviously. So I didn't think the production was up to par, and I thought that we should have made more strides after the first record to become a band, not. It was more or less going towards John being the front guy and nothing else. And I kept on going, American rock and roll band, American rock and roll band, yes, rock and roll band. So the record was okay. Like I said, I don't know if we had the songs, but I don't think it was up to par. I mean, if you put on, if that record was produced or sounded like a Bob Rock production, it would be a whole different story.
I'm going to have to agree with you there. Honestly.
I mean, I just thought it was a very watery, discombobulated sounding record, and I was very actually surprised that after going on the road with, the Scorpions and Priest and all these people and stuff like that, we didn't get more shit thrown at us, actually.
Yeah, I can imagine.
You can't imagine.
Oh, I can imagine, because I've always found it interesting when you look back at the band's rise that you were categorized as metal, and you're doing these shows with Priest and all, and it was like, well, Bon Jovi's not really metal. They're more, Orianthi.
Also the thing was, outside this country, nothing ever faltered. That was the other thing. Once we got out of this country and Slippery hit in Europe and all this other shit, I mean, it was basically, it was on. That was it. It was on. It was like all of a sudden there was the band, and then it became what it was, and that's it.
Yeah, it really did.
And so it's like, well,
and I'll move on from the band thing in a second, but you do mention band at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Hugh McDonald did get inducted along. I think it was well deserved. How much did he actually play on those early albums? Because we know he played on Runaway, and we know that he's thanked in all the albums, and there's all these suspicions that he played probably a little more than Alec did. Is that a fair thing to say?
Well, yeah, he did at the time. He did at the time because, there's no knock on Alec. Alec just, he takes a little longer sometimes to come up with a part or whatever. So, and we were moving pretty quickly. So, and Huey was an old friend of not only mine. I mean, I met Huey when I was 18 years old, doing sessions with him. He was one of the first guys that ever helped me out, So we knew each other for a long time, and it's well deserved, and I definitely was a part of the advocacy for that, for sure. I mean, Kid Klein, he's been a bass player in the band for all this time, and created some of those parts. So, I'm not saying Al did the job, but Huey definitely helped out, that's for sure.
Yeah,
so there you go.
And it's good to hear.
For sure. I mean, the greatest guy, unbelievable bass player, all that.
Absolute greatest guy. I've had a chance to meet him. Just absolutely wonderful. Orianthi, folks first got to hear of you in a more sort of more elaborate way when you were with Michael Jackson's band. Talk to me about how a young lady from Australia shows up in America and ends up with Michael Jackson, and then Alice Cooper, and then Richie Sambora. It truly is sort of a fantasy, right? I mean, how did you sort of position yourself to get? Was it just auditions and skills, or was it luck? Was it? I mean, talk to me about it, 'cause it's been an incredible career.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah,
it's a lot of work. When I was 15, I quit school. When I was 15. I had 3 cover bands going, and I just kept on trying to write and produce music myself at home in my studio. And I sent it out to every record label that I could sign contact for. And I finally got a deal with Jimmy Iovine when I was 20. So I moved to America when I was 20 years old and started my first big record. And then as I was making my record, I was actually in the studio with Diane Warren, and we're doing a song. And I got a message on MySpace from Michael Jackson's MD that Michael was going to call me that evening because he wanted me as his lead guitar player for the tour. Now, I called him. I said, yeah, sure. I called the MD and then put Michael on the phone, and Michael was like, I really want you to come in tomorrow, learn beat it, do Diana, and want to be starting something. And I was already with Gaffin, Interscope, so I was making my album. I didn't tell him. I didn't tell the label. I just went in, because this is freaking Michael Jackson, so, I want to work with him. So I worked with him and for like 3 months, and it was the most incredible experience to be able to do that. Also very traumatizing. I mean, at the end, it's just like an insane situation, what happened.
Oh, yeah.
So he, when he passed, and then I had a record ready to go with Interscope. So Jimmy and Ron Fair were like, let's just put it out, you know? Then I had a number one song. I had a platinum record in like America, Australia, and Japan. And I was on this crazy tour with that single and album and with my band and all of that. But honestly, I was so kind of distraught with what happened with Michael. I didn't enjoy it at all. You know, I needed a moment. But it was all, you know how it is with labels and stuff. They're all like, go, go, you know. So it was, that was crazy. But I worked really, really hard to have that, you know, success with that record as well. I worked it extensively. And then after that ran for, you know, a few years. I decided to make an independent album with Dave Stewart, Heaven and Hell. And then I got a call when I was in the studio making that record from Alice Cooper to say, hey, I need a lead guitar player. My guitar player left for Thin Lizzy. And so I really enjoyed working with you on American Idol. And I did some work with Bob Ezrin, you know, in the studio for some different artists. And so, yeah, I was like, well, I love Alice, you know. And so I was like, well, you know what? Yeah, I'll definitely come out with you, you know. And then it ended up being 3 years. So I just loved it, you know. But it was 25 songs I had to learn in a week, Alice Cooper songs. So you can imagine that was an easy task. But, yeah, it was Halo of Flies really got me, 11-minute song. Not that it was difficult technically. It was just remembering all the parts, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was I had to really put my mind to it. So I literally told everybody, I love you all, but I will not be available for a week. I have to get into Alice Cooper world here. And then we went on a world tour. And we just played it, you know, in front of thousands of people for 3 years. And I covered myself in blood and had a blast. So, yeah, that's kind of how, I mean, but I'm missing out on a lot of things with how everything came about with just, you know, label and all that stuff and the journey and ups and downs and all that. It's just a lot of work, really. You just keep on going. You know, as an artist, if you love it, you want to make it your life, you just dedicate all your time to it, be the best you can be, and keep on going. That's all you can do.
The decision to leave Alice Cooper, was it you met Rich and you said, hey, you know what, we've got something here, let's go explore this? Or was it so much like,
yeah.
Okay, so it wasn't like, oh, I'm tired of this. It's too much. I don't want to do the blood. I just want to. There wasn't any of that.
No, I loved it.
Okay.
No. I love playing Alice, and we had the Motley tour coming up, but it was an extensive tour again. You know, I mean, we literally toured, I think it was like 8 or 10 months of the year, so full on. You know, and I decided that I wanted to make a record, and so did Richie, and we decided to make it together. We have, you know, chemistry, and we just had amazing songs we'd written, and it was a decision that we made, you know.
Yeah.
So Alice is in full support. I mean, you know, he loves Richie, and you know, he was like, you know, a father to me on the road. You know, such a insightful, amazing person. You know, Alice and his wife Cheryl and Calico and everybody. So, and the band were like my brothers. So we all stay in contact. We all hang out, and it's wonderful. You know, it really is.
Oh, yeah, it really is. And of course, you know, Ryan, Roxy, and Tommy, and they're great guys. Richie, let me just get back to songwriting here for a second, because on Radio Free America, and in fact, both of you, Orianthi and Richie, you've written these great songs. Lyrically, they speak to you. And, of course, over the years, You Give Love a Bad Name, Wanted Dead or Alive, all these big songs. Richie, what makes a good song for you? What is sort of your secret sauce, if you want, for writing, and how do you sort of compose a song? What's sort of the ingredients that go into it?
Well, you know, I think it just should be a story that either relates to obviously humanity and what people normally. Everybody goes through more human stuff on this planet that they don't. So if you can, you know, as a songwriter, kind of hold up a mirror to some of that stuff, it becomes not only consoling to people, but it's entertainment, and there's some kind of communal thing that happens when people jump around to the same song and they're all feeling the same thing. So I think it's a piece of that. You know, I mean, usually, you know, we write from the title, and the title gives you kind of a place. You know, it's a story, it's a movie in itself. You know, but you know, a lot of times comes out of a riff sometimes, but for me, most of the times it comes out of some feeling or lyrical idea, actually, believe it or not the guitar doesn't come first for me. It's more melody and lyric and stuff like that. So, but, that's just me.
Yeah. Incredible songs you've written over the years. And then I'll follow up with this. The first solo album, Stranger in This Town, Bon Jovi at the time riding a wave of popularity that you can't even describe. I mean, top of the the roller coaster, if you want. What was it like that first time breaking out and saying, okay, it's going to be my voice on these songs, it's going to be my artistic direction on these songs, this is my album? Talk to me about Stranger in This Town and just saying, okay, I'm going to go out and do this. And what was sort of the compelling moment that said, yeah, I have to do this. I can't just...
I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to do it. I was like, I needed to break out of that, and it's obviously not a record that the record company was going to be expecting or anything like that. But that's not what I made. So, they expected to get a Bon Jovi record or something, and that's not what happened, obviously. But, I love that album, and so many great people played on it, and, I got a chance to tour on my own. But if you ask me if any trepidation, I mean, are you kidding me? I couldn't wait for that opportunity. If you're not an entertainer or an artist, man, if you get a chance to, listen, I just wanted to be a singer, and get my message across. And obviously, that was a leap that was going towards growing up, because those lyrics were a whole different substance. So, that's the way songs go. They teach you as you go. They're kind of like a journal in your life. And that was definitely one of those points. But no, man, are you kidding me? That's like when I walk on stage, I'm excited, man. We're going to go out there and raise some hell with great songs. And then, go at it as two guitar players who really mean what they are. And from what I've seen so far, people are really digging it, because we'll walk out there with all this new material and playing festivals and different stuff like that. Second chorus, we had the audience, no problem. That was a good sign. So, so we're really excited, that's all.
I do want to talk about an upcoming tour, because there aren't any dates available that I'm seeing right now. So, and by the way, when you do get out there, hopefully songs like Rosie and Ballad of Youth will be resurrected for the set list. But what are sort of the plans for touring? Are we going to go out on a 6-month extensive tour? Are we going to do a few select shows? What is sort of the future in terms of...
that it's one of those things that in this business nowadays it has to build. Because I think what happens is that there's a perception that goes out there, and it's in people's mind's eye and also in their souls that they know us as this specific entity and what we're both, our life experience has shown other people, right? But this is a whole other view, and that's what we meant it to be. That's how come we were trying so many different genres and try to say, hey, where do we live? And we found out that we live in all of them. And then making that sonic palette consistent throughout all of it. And we did it. That's not the easiest thing to do in the world, So we had a good time doing it, too, so.
Oh, yeah, it really came out great. Let me just, I see that we're running out of time, so I'll just want to ask you about this. We all know, especially as a Canadian, what happened in Calgary and in Canada. Looking back on all of that, was it just time to move on? And were there any moments where you woke up and said, what did I do? Or was it more like, oh, okay, I can breathe now. I get to just go be Richie now. What was that like?
What do you think?
Right?
It was time, man. It was time. And this is, it's just, we weren't moving anywhere.
Right.
And I said to myself, man, this is we got a bunch of great musicians and a bunch of stuff. We were just moving in different directions, and it was time. That's what I thought. And quite frankly, the touring schedule was so absurd. Even other big bands like U2 and the Stones and stuff like that, they take 2 years off to have a life between these massive excursions that we do, And we never did that. So, basically, what are you going to say? I was burnt out. My daughter needed me to be home. I needed to be with my kids. There's a bunch of stuff that I needed. And it was just what it was. I don't regret it. It went down kind of crappy, but what are you going to do? Sometimes it's just got to be that way.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to seize the day. But it really it
The
really.
people, you know what? You got to understand. You have to understand something else. Okay, people don't understand the backstory. Just think about 31 years in a marriage to 4 other guys. A lot of stuff goes down. Nobody needs to talk about that. But there is a backstory, as in any relationship. So it's just not cut and dry where people go, "Whew, that's what happened," you know. But
Right.
I got too much class to talk about. I'm not going to get there.
No, we're not going to get to the crap. But I mean, we know as fans over the years, after the New Jersey touring cycle, which was absolutely insane. I mean, what was it, like 230 shows and 300? I mean, or whatever it was.
252.
Yeah, you know, you need to step back and breathe. And I think as you get more successful, and you point out U2, and you point out the Rolling Stones, and even Paul McCartney, at some point, you do need to just breathe and live a little. And I guess it can get frustrating not being able to sort of enjoy the labor.
Well, you know what? You know what? That's the way the songs come out.
Right.
Living life. You know, that's the way the songs come out. That's the way your feelings come out. That's the way you have the peace of mind to actually observe culture and other people and relate to that. I mean, that's imperative to me personally as a writer. I mean, I need to connect. You need to know what's going on with people and how they're feeling, wherever they are. Don't matter. You know, it's music is a very transcendental language where it defies language, actually.
Yeah, it really does. And, of course, Radio Free America is out now. And I'll just finish on this because I know we're running out of time. For a second or third album as they come out, now that you've experimented with all the sort of different styles and put them on here, these 15 tracks, do you want to sort of go next album, say, okay, we're going to focus on just being blues, or we're just going to focus on being more sort of country, or we're going to focus more on rock? Or is it the next album will just be, listen, if it comes out like another one, like you know what I mean? Like you've experimented with all the different sounds. Do you want to sort of focus in on a different sound for the next album and be more specific? Or do you want to have that freedom?
Not particularly at the moment for me, ask Gloria. You know, I think, you know, what we got now is a very workable circumstance where people just have to get to know us. And if you just take a couple of those songs, we got another 10 already finished. So, and then there's 50 waiting. And we're writing more every day. So
and some of the stuff that we're writing now, you know, we're proud of, you know, 'cause it's like, I don't know, it's a journey, you know, it's just, we're going to continually, release music for people, and hopefully they get our sound together, you know, because we worked hard on it, so.
Yeah, you really did.
That's where it's at.
And it really is, what would be the word for it? It's like an emotional album, because you really hear it and you can feel what you're singing. You can feel the emotions of it. It's incredibly well put together. And so we are out of time. I'll finish with this, Richie. Just the last one. Speaking solely as a Bon Jovi fan, "Slippery When Wet." Why did you leave "Edge of a Broken Heart" off the album? It's such a great song.
Sometimes, you know, it actually went out to a movie soundtrack before the album was done, and we figured that we had the rest of the record finished, and so give them that one. And they it became, I don't know, I forgot the movie actually, so it was in some movie, yeah.
Right. Richie, thank you for
one of those pictures that are made at that time.
I'm trying to think what movie that was. I can't. Ori.
Something with it might be something with the Fat Boys or something. I think.
Oh, was it the Disorderlies? Was that it? Could that have been
That's
it?
it.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
See, I told you I was a fan. But I just want to finish on this then. Ori, thank you for everything over the years. You've been very, very kind to me. Your time in Alice Cooper was absolutely spectacular. The shows with you were spectacular. And, of course, Richie, just, you know, God, how many, almost 40 years of just great music and the Bon Jovi stuff. I mean, it was my life. So thank you for that, too. So thank you for touching my life, both of you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the support.
Thanks for the support, brother.
Absolutely. Anytime. Cheers. Bye-bye.
You're listening to Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Rock Talk.
And a big thank you to Richie Sambora and Orianthi. And I got to say, the 15-year-old self in me, very excited. I mean, when you look back at some of those bands that affected my life, the Aerosmiths and the Kiss and the Metallicas, Bon Jovi is right in that pack, and to actually speak to somebody from Bon Jovi, very exciting. And of course, Orianthi I knew from the days of Alice Cooper, and she was just always pleasant to be around. Just such a nice, what's the word? Do we say lady? Is that Bill? Bill, help me out. Bill Leverty, welcome back. But help me out. Do we say lady? Is that derogatory?
Yeah, you preface that with the lovely and talented.
And she truly is. I mean, she's just and I'm talking not just as a guitar player, but as a person backstage. And when I've had a chance to meet her and stuff, it's just so incredibly nice and pleasant and fun to be around. Anyway, great having that chat. But Bill, since we're here, let us move on to Bad Wolves. We've got John from the Bad Wolves. Their new album is called Disobey. You can now go buy it, so please do. But you back in the day, of course, you had your first album years and years ago. Talk to me about the challenges of you and Firehouse getting out your first album. What was that like? Because it's not the same marketplace. What were some of the positive things you had, and what some of the things that maybe now is better?
Well, the positive things for us was that it was all very new to us, and going out and playing and having people that were just getting exposed to our music and to us individually was just mind-blowing. To go, get on a bus and then, you're playing a gig in Salt Lake City somewhere, and there's a bunch of people that show up, what a feeling. So these guys, I got to hand it to them. It's really, really cool that they can all come from bands that are known already.
Yeah, Snot, DevilDriver, God Forbid, a lot of those great metal bands. Do you think, as a seasoned veteran, right, is that the proper term, seasoned veteran, do you think it's grizzled? Is it easier? Was it easier in your day to get a band going with tour support and record company support? Is it really that different, or are they sort of just doing what you guys were doing, but 25 years later?
No, I think it was probably easier to get tour support back in the day, in the olden days, we'll say. And so I really commend them because they're DIY rather.
Yeah, right. Do it yourself.
They're doing it themselves. They're going to go out there. They've all got the experience of what it takes to get out there. They're all focused and wanting to do it. They all come from having experience and all that. They've got some audiences amongst each one of them, and they're going to be able to get out there and play shows. And that's what you got to do. You got to take it to the people, and the only way to take it to the people these days is with your live shows. And so that's what they're doing. And we did it back in the day where we'd all hop in a van and drive for many hours and do a gig, and we still do it today. I mean, there are a lot of situations where we rent a van, we hop in that van, and we go. And that's what it's like to be a musician these days, and it's what it was like back in the good old days too. So
it's a lot of hard work, but it's a lot of fun. And I'm going to tell you one thing here that you may not know of the Bad Wolves. They have a cover version of the Cranberries song "Zombie." And
cool. Great
they
song.
it's a great song. They had invited Dolores from the Cranberries to come and sing it, and the studio was booked, and the day before that she was supposed to go in and cut her vocals for the band, she passed away, and the band released a single, and they are not taking any money on it. Any money that is raised from that song, they are donating to Dolores' children to make sure that they still have, and I think that's just so very cool. That is just very
wonderful cause.
Yes, it's very human.
Situation into something
very positive.
At least has somewhat of a silver lining, and God bless them. I mean, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and I just commend them for doing that. And of course, the song went all the way to #1 on the U.S. Mainstream rock charts, billboards, and that just goes to show the power of a song and the power of a good gesture. The fact that they aren't selfishly, storing all the nuts in their own backyard, and they're going to share with her family is just kudos to the band for being just great human beings. I mean, that's what we should be doing in a sense. Anyway, so there you go.
That is huge. That is just huge. I'm blown away.
Yeah, that's very kind. And so, you know what? John actually talks about that during the interview. So let's get right into it. Here is John Boecklin from the Bad Wolves. The new album is Disobey, and if you like your metal hard, fast, and fierce, you definitely need to check out the Bad Wolves. And here is the one, the only, John. We are speaking with drummer John Boecklin of the band Bad Wolves. The new album is Disobey. John, a great pleasure to talk to you.
Pleasure to speak with you, Mitch. How are you doing?
Good. So let's get into this this new album, or this debut album. You were, of course, in another band previously, and it's been 3-4 years since then. Talk to me about getting together with the guys and starting a new band, and eventually what becomes a new brand, and just sort of building it up from the beginning.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess it starts with me. Yeah, I left DevilDriver, and I left having already started this project, knowing that this was going to be my next move. Where musically, what that was going to be, I did not know yet. So I spent a lot of time writing different styles, genres, what I was going to be happy with. And I'd say about 2 years into that process is when I met up with Tommy Vexed. And that's when the band really started taking shape. And his vocals, I mean, because you really don't know what something's going to be until vocals are on it. And when his vocals started coming together and his input on arrangements, Tommy really took my 6-minute songs to 3-minute songs. That was what he helped me shorten down and strengthen my process. So, that was around 2015, probably 2016 when I met up with Tommy, and things started taking off from there. And that's where it ended up, just about.
Now, why was it such a slow burn? Were you very focused on creating the perfect song, or was it just it wasn't coming together the way you wanted it to? Why was it sort of a 2-year process to get us to Disobey in 2018?
Well, it was a 4-year process, but it wasn't difficult. It was just figuring out what I wanted to do. So it wasn't like, I still like a lot of the music that was written, but it's just not for Bad Wolves. And until Tommy came on board, I had so many songs laying around. I just didn't really know what was going to be what. And until the singer comes on board, you don't really know what you really have. So, well, once he did, we realized he's a really strong singer. So, we've kind of committed to having most of the record be clean vocals. And with exception of kind of connecting to our past of really heavy stuff, there's a good 3 or 4 songs on there that have the screaming, Yeah,
you needed clean vocals. Talk to me about how you got together with Tommy. Was that just a friend from the neighborhood kind of thing, or were there actual auditions where you said, okay, I need to find a vocalist for this project?
I was in search of a vocalist for the project, but I had known Tommy before that. We had toured together when he was in Snot. I think I met him briefly here and there when he was in Divine Heresy. So we were familiar and friends already. So it wasn't a tryout situation. I ran into him. I think it might have been my birthday party at the Viper Room, and we just kind of reconnected. And I said, "Hey, let me send you some songs and see what you think." And it blossomed from there.
And it really came out great. Let me take you back to when you were younger. The album from Metallica, and Justice for All, comes across your lap, and you suck it in. You go, okay. Talk to me about the influence of that album and that moment of discovery where you went, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to sound, or I want to, Lars is my guy, and I want to play drums like that guy.
Okay, I can kind of remember exactly where I was. I was in my bedroom. I was sitting on my bunk bed, which became my drum set. Pretty much, I would pull up a chair and set up on my pillows. I don't know. I can't describe really what that is, but it was just so immediate. Listening to it, just got, this is it. I want to play drums, and I want to do it now, and I want to do it by playing Metallica songs. And it's just it was something spoke to me,
But what was it? Because you do tell a story that I've heard in the past where you took out these rods from your shelves and you taped them up and you played on your pillows and your bed, and it was more than just oh, here's an album, it really was something that touched you profoundly.
Yeah, it was. And it's just music. That's what it does to millions of people. But for some reason, to me, it inspired me to play. And music has always been a big part of my life. As a kid, it was pop music, whatever it was. I was always really into it. But for some reason, when it crossed over into the musical side of Metallica, that just like it was like I need to play music. I don't need just to listen to it.
So then talk to me about. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I owe to Metallica. The first time I met Lars, that's what I thought. I was like, you're the. It sounds cheesy, but you were the reason why I play music. Like, I didn't bore him with the story or anything, but it was very odd the way that I still think about that moment from time to time, how just direct it was. Metallica, listening, boom, I'm going to do this. It was like something just spoke to me.
Yeah, it was definitely a 1 + 1 = you playing drums. And of course, Injustice is going to be re-released in November as a deluxe box set. I think everybody's excited about. But talk to me about your drumming style. How do you see yourself in terms of drum style? Did you sort of just copy from Lars, or tell me how you've developed into your own drummer and sort of what makes what you do good?
Well, you can listen to all what I've done so far, anyone listening, and you kind of know what I've done. What makes me good was, I think I never really cared to be the best. I just cared about songs. And so I spent most of my time equally, besides playing drums, writing guitar. I never tried to be good at guitar either. I just wanted to write songs. So it was a tool for me to get out things I heard in my brain. And, so I never quite focused on the discipline aspects, which has its positives and negatives. So for shifting to Bad Wolves, I kind of didn't want to repeat myself. So I started taking lessons from Dave Elitch, who's played with Miley Cyrus, and, who else? Killer Be Killed, who's a metal rock band with the guys from Mastodon and stuff, and played in a bunch of other, I'm forgetting, Justin Timberlake, stuff like that. Anyways, so he helped me. I just wanted to get out of the metal zone, area that I had been kind of stuck in, and I didn't want to repeat myself. So he helped me a lot with studying the right rudiments to continue and find different pockets and holes. And I think it's night and day the way my drumming sounds with my previous projects to this one.
Yeah, it really is. We of course have the big hit, your cover of the Cranberries' "Zombie." Talk to me about going there, because when you think about metal and the metal thing, one would think, well, it would make more sense to cover Megadeth, or it would make more sense to cover Kiss. Or talk to me about how you decided to cover the Cranberries track, and then of course having the original or having the singer come onto it, which of course didn't happen. But talk to me about that decision and using that song or recording that song.
It was Tommy's decision, kind of idea. And so when we started, it was like we didn't really have like a mindset to do covers. But when he threw out that idea, everyone was like, oh, yeah, cool. Let's record it. See how it goes. It wasn't something that we had big ideas for or anything like that. And so, but it came out really good, really good. Tommy had great ideas on how to like make the verses unique. Different from the original. So we got excited about it. So we're like, we'll put this on the record. And when we got signed to 11-7 Records, there was the president, Alan Kovac, and some other people I had relationship with Dolores through previously managing her. So they sent her the track. She liked it, really liked it, and actually wanted to sing on it. So, and unfortunately, she passed away the day we were going to do that. And then I think everyone knows the story from there. So that's kind of like the Zombie story on our side in a nutshell. And we all know it's going really well out there for the song, and I think it's a great tribute to her.
Yeah, I really do. And of course, you mentioned Alan Kovac. Do you ever sit with Alan and have him tell, or does he ever tell you Motley Crue stories about how it was back in the day?
I don't sit down with Alan and have him tell me Motley Crue stories. I've I know everything about Alan and what he's done. It's crazy, but no, I tend to not bother him with wanting to hear reminiscent stories, you know.
Well, maybe I'll give him a call then. So talk to me a little bit about that decision in 2014 to pack up and leave DevilDriver. Now, of course, we know Des was going to run off and do Cold Chamber. Was that the catalyst where you said, okay, if he's going to leave, I'm going to leave too? Or was it just wasn't working anymore musically, financially, whatever it was, it was time to sort of move on?
A couple things. It was, to me, musically, it hit its peak, and it was just kind of there was no really where else to go with it. With me, I was kind of the main songwriter there, and maybe the other guys could step up to the plate after I left and feel refreshed about doing stuff, but I didn't. I also, the way he handled his transition to Cold Chamber was very poor, and very uninformed, where he had led us down a path believing in doing a new record where we weren't. So, and he dropped that on us in a day and said, cool, you take 3 years off. We're doing this. And so I was like, okay, well, if you're going to take the band that lightly with us that lightly, then I'll take it pretty lightly, and I'm just going to leave, you know? And it had been a long time coming anyway. So, it was kind of just for the best. That's the best way to put it, you know? And it really was for the best, because I'm so much more happier, and, you know, I'm very proud of what I did before, but I'm very happy where I've landed.
Yeah, so then, okay, let's get back to Bad Wolves in a sense then, because you have landed here. You are the founder, you are the drummer, you are the songwriter. Talk to me about the musical vision you want for the band. Is this something that you just want to stay heavy all the time, or do you see yourself more as like a David Bowie or a U2, where after, you know, album after album, you might want to reinvent yourself, you might want to experiment? Because now that you're the boss, in a sense, you do have that freedom. So talk to me about how you sort of see the band moving forward past 2018 into 2019 and beyond.
I see our heavier stuff getting heavier, and I see our experimental stuff getting much more experimental. I see us trying everything and under the sun. And I think with the debut, if you haven't heard it, Mitch, it's like it already expresses a bit of that. Now, when I say experimental, I don't mean in the very odd, like Nine Inch Nails, deep rabbit hole, kind of like, you know, remix album or something like that. But we will always stay focused in on like a songwriting aspect of delivering hooks, because that's what we like. And I love Tommy's voice, and we writing catchy music. So, but I think you'll find record 2 and 3 and 4 is just going to keep expanding off, you know, because we have melodies that are hooky, but they're not quite, they're a little to the left and a little to the right. They're not something you can totally put your finger on. That's totally, you know, just cookie cutter rock, you know? So we always put our little stamp of style on everything. So, I think our rock, you know, Octane, that kind of, serious radio and major radio stuff, we're always going to try and have a little bit of a twist on it. So it's not, so just dead center, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do. And in fact, I do have the album in front of me, and I did have a chance to listen to it. And there are the songs that sort of really stand out. Of course, the singles, Toast to the Ghost and Learn to Live. But it really is a journey, a musical journey. If you listen to all sort of 16 tracks that were made available to me, it really is this musical journey. And is that something that you set out to do, to not just take the listener on, you know, the sort of straight ahead rock? You really wanted them to experience sort of the ups and downs and go on a journey as they listen to the album?
Yeah. I think the main focus was just not to repeat myself. So, the worst thing you can do, and I've watched it happen, and I was always in my brain as this record was getting written, is, you know, oh, this guy from this band now doing this sounds just like what he was doing before, but worse. Like, you know, that's really just what was on my brain. So, I know for a fact if I just kind of wrote the same style, it just would worse. This whole thing is different tuning, different guitars, different everything. So, be different was my motto. And also speed was not something of my concern, even though there are some fast songs. I didn't really have any interest of trying to outdo what's going on in metal, which I think gives you a sense of relief to be and then originality kind of comes your way when you're not trying to be a competitive writer. You're just trying to write, you know?
And you have said also that the album is a little more commercial in certain aspects, almost apologetically. Is that a concern from the fan base that they might find it too commercial? Because there are big melodies and big hooks on this. There are great lyrics. There are great vocals. There are just great drum passes. What's wrong making a commercial album?
What's wrong? In the metal world, it can backfire you, because metal's built on not being popular. That's where the underground lives and survives. But this is not that band, so I don't care. And I don't think anyone else in this band cares, because smiles on our faces were happening when we were writing this. And when we listen to the final product, and we're not trying to please anybody but ourselves, so it's working thus far. So
yeah, and I don't know if the metal world is that offended by commercialism. I mean, we spoke about Metallica before. You look at the Black Album, I'm pretty sure it defined their entire career from what they've done. It really elevated them to that next level. The first single, Learn to Live, came out almost 6 months ago. Talk to me about that strategy of putting stuff out way ahead of the album's official release. Is that a risk to take, that it might be forgotten by the time the album comes out, or that, just talk to me about sort of the marketing strategy and the sort of the rollout of the album?
That's interesting, because we were signed because of the success from our first show and Learn to Live.
Right.
So the marketing strategy was a worry of mine. Okay, but we couldn't just sit in a non-existent medium and hope that everything would just work out. So we had to take that first step and release a song. Yes, it was a concern of ours. Okay, what are we going to do next? Well, let's see how this goes first before we decide what we do next. So, but then after we did, we had filmed a little lyric video for Toast to the Ghost, and around that time was when we got signed. So we saved that for 11/7 to release first. And it was kind of we chose that song because it was it doesn't have much screaming, but it's still reflective of metal, but it also it's the first song that everyone heard that, it's not Learn to Live with metal screaming throughout the whole thing. It's blast beat choruses and very slow melodic verses, but it's all clean singing. So we were excited to put that out. And then the plan after that kind of then involves 11/7 and their, release of Zombie. We all agreed to donate all the proceeds to Dolores' kids with the release of Zombie. And with that success of that song, they've, just really kept on a marketing plan of, okay, well then we're going to go have this song out here, there, and so almost a year is already planned out.
It really is. And of course, let's finish with the tour. You're going to be heading out with Five Finger Death Punch and Breaking Benjamin, and of course, Nothing More. Talk to me about that tour coming up this summer, and just what can fans expect? And of course, you'll be there with Jason Hook, good old Canadian boy.
Yes, he's a sweetheart.
Yes.
What can fans expect? They can expect probably a 25 to 30 minute set of us opening the show, giving our best tunes and going for it really hard, very quickly. It's going to be an outdoor show, so I think almost 99% of those venues are outdoors. So get there early, come check us out. And I think as far as Canadian dates go, I think we're there on the 8th of August.
Possibly. Trying to think.
I know well, I'd have to look it back up. Sorry.
No,
but there is a Canadian date in there.
Yeah, I would imagine.
It is Toronto.
Yeah, because everything is in Toronto. That is, and of course, you do have Zoltan managing you. So just quickly, how did that sort of come about? Was it just the fact that he was looking for management, or was it convenience? And how did sort of the hookup with Zoltan come about?
I had known him for a long time. However, this came about through Tommy. and his relationship with him, they had been hanging out. Now, has he been looking for? He had been speaking to Tommy about, and our lawyer, Eric German, about like, yeah, I wouldn't mind finding a band, the right band, manage them, like, and Tommy had been hanging out with him around that same time. So I think, Tommy was hanging out with him on his yacht and presented his band, our band, with, I think it was the Learn to Live video. So, well, this is what we just did, and I think Zoltan was pretty interested. We released it. It gained more traction. He saw the reaction it was getting, and I think he officially came on board shortly after that. And through there, he was, and still has been doing a fucking kick-ass job.
Yeah, he really has. And I checked up the date. It is August 20th at the Budweiser stage in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. The one and only Canadian date. Hopefully we'll see you in Montreal at some point. But hey, there you go.
Yes, we will be. We are doing a headliner in June, which I think announced today at some point. I don't know, but I can't say anything about it if it hasn't. So there might be, there could be a couple dates on there. So everyone just keep your eyes and ears peeled for any more Canadian dates.
Yes, and John, great pleasure. And, of course, best of luck with the new album. The 16 tracks that I had a chance to preview, I just loved it. It was just this great in-your-face metal, like the old days, in a sense, for me. And, hey, great stuff.
I'm glad you like it, man. That's really cool. You got the whole 16, huh? So some of those are B-side tracks, some of the last couple there. But, yeah, that's a lot to take in. So I'm glad you got a chance to check it all out.
It is. I'm trying to think of, so which ones are the B-sides? I've got all the way down to I Swear, Pacifico, Blood and Bone, Shapeshifter.
Yeah. Blood and Bones, Pacifico, and I Swear are the B-sides.
Oh, look at that. I got the deluxe edition. There you go.
You got the deluxe edition. Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for diving into it. And, yeah, you seem to know a lot about metal, my path and everything, so thanks for being a supporter of what we do, man. That's really cool.
Yeah, I really am. Listen, I've interviewed DevilDriver in the past. I believe I've met you, I think probably at Heavy Montreal or something or somewhere. And I did want to ask you about your Vic Firth endorsements and all that. I don't know if you still have a couple of minutes about that, but just great gear. And sure. Yeah, listen, I've done the metal thing for 25. I mean, I interviewed Gene Simmons when I was 11, and I'm not 11 anymore. So it's been a long, long time. Yeah, but okay, let's quickly then on Vic Firth before we wrap it up. Just talk to me about that. I know that you weren't looking for an endorsement. They came to you. They came to a show and they said, "Hey, we want you," and you're a big endorser of their products. You talk greatly about the tape that they use on your drumsticks and stuff. So talk to me about all of that and just what does it mean to have an endorser and what do they bring to your playing? Because obviously the gear you choose helps make you the player that you are.
Correct. Are you talking about with Vic Firth in particular? It's just
all of it.
Yeah. I just recently made a switch from Mapex. Unfortunately, about 2 years ago, Joe Hibbs, who was my main kind of A&R relationships guy there, he passed away. And after that, I just kind of, with the transition I was in, I kind of just kept to myself, and I kind of lost touch with the company a little bit. Still a great product, but switched over to DWPDP, which is right up the street from me in Oxnard. And they approached me about possibly doing something, and I was very thrilled about it. So I'm officially with them now. I haven't told anybody that yet, so there's a nice little exclusive for you. And having a good relationship with your gear people is just super important to me. And they kind of get the vision of what I'm doing, and they've been looking for a rock artist to kind of feature with the PDP new drumline stuff. So we're going to be doing that, and I'm going to kind of be on their campaign of promoting that side of their gear storage. I mean, their gear storage, that side of their things they have to offer, And I switched over to DDUM hardware too, so I love their hardware. I just feel a lot more comfortable with their hardware than I So it's everything's great there, and it's a big change, going to new pedals too with the GW 9000s, and it's I was concerned. I'll see if I can play them, and threw them up there one day. I was like, yep, sure, I'm good. There's a great product over there. And Vic Firth, I've been with since 2004. I haven't stopped. Meinl since 2004, and those people I know and love. So. And if you get a little stale and you want to mix it up, they got anything you can imagine you want to try out. So it's those where I feel like I'm there to stay.
Yeah, such a great company, and I promise I'll finish on this. But Lars once quipped, our famous Lars from Metallica, that if he knew he would still be doing this 30 years later, he would have played slower in the early days. Is that something that also, as you've moved on and you moved on to Bad Wolves and you're doing, and again, commercial sound, but more rounded sound, is that part of the concern also as you get older that physically it might be tougher to play, the blast beats and the heavy stuff, and it's maybe good to sort of start transitioning into a more rounded melodic sound? Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, no, I know you're saying. You're kind of nicely putting it like, are you going to get weak and chill out?
No, but I mean, listen, we all slow down, and Lars had I think it was a funny point. He said, I would have played slower if I had known I'd be doing this 30 years later, which I thought was a great quote.
I may play slower here and there, but it's more from my perspective of trying to do things differently.
Right.
I will tell you this, Bad Wolves, it may not sound like it, but it's a very different technique for me, and Bad Wolf stuff at this point in my life is much, much harder to play than anything I've done in the past. Because it's a completely different feel. It's not so linear. It's not just 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a lot more going on. It may not sound like it, but it is, and it's due to my lessons with Elitch, like I had mentioned before. So.
That's great stuff. John, great pleasure, and hopefully we'll see you on the road soon, and anytime, let's do a part 2 at some point.
Hey, yes, you have my blessing. Call my people. I'm always here, ready for you.
Thank you, sir. Have a good one.
All right,
and great debut album, Disobey.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Now back to Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon.
And a big thank you to John of Bad Wolves. The new album is Disobey. It's out now. Do yourself a favor and go check it out. And while you're checking out stuff, let us check back in with Bill Leverty of Firehouse. Of course, head over to Leverty.com for all your Leverty needs. Is that how we say it? All your Leverty needs? Is that
I love it, dude. Thanks.
Is that the proper tagline for that?
Couldn't be better. Couldn't be better.
So there you go. Now, let us talk George Thorogood, because that's the sort of the bookend on the sort of Powerhouse episode. I'm assuming, maybe rightly so, that you're probably a great George fan. He's from Delaware. You're from Virginia. You've got that sort of blues rock thing in your soul, and George, of course, delivers it perfectly, right? You're a fan.
Oh, without question. When I think about iconic rock and roll singer guitar players, George Thorogood is in the top 10. He could be in the top 5. I really haven't gotten him out on a list, but he is such an incredibly dynamic performer, and he's masterful. I saw him open up for the Stones in 1981.
Wow.
And he blew everybody away. I'm not saying he blew the Stones away, but the audience
that's very, very hard to do. But when you're at a Stones concert and you remember the opener and they made an impression on you, that means that they were good.
I got to tell you, he made Mick and Keith earn their gig money that night.
Yeah.
His band was on fire. He was on fire. He had everybody in the palm of his hand, and every note of his guitar playing gave me goosebumps. He could break it down and play so soft and then play with so much energy. And the guy was just brilliant. He had such energy on stage, and he's got all those hits, and he even played songs I'd never heard before. He had a good set length, and he left everybody in that crowd breathless.
Yeah, and when you look back at the catalog, whether it's a cover song or an original, whether it's One Bourbon, One Scotch, One Beer, Bad to the Bone, I Drink Alone, Who Do You Love? I mean, those songs, his versions, the originals or the covers, are very iconic. There are so many movies that have used Bad to the Bone, so many commercials. When you hear that opening riff, I mean, you're a guitarist. When you hear that, da-na-na-na-na, doesn't that just send chills up your spine?
It's the perfect riff. And, I just remember when I was in a cover band in my early years, and that song was on jukeboxes, we were setting up, and they were elderly men who were sitting at the bar who would get up and start dancing to that song. And that's the kind of impact that song had on people in bars back in the day. And it just made me open my eyes and go, wow, if I could only write something half that good, So I'm still working on it.
Yeah. Well, you've got a couple of songs there at the Leverty.com for all your Leverty needs. See, I'm going to use that every time now. You've got Memorable and Love is Like a Song. And, of course, it is a 2-for-1. You spend $1, you get 2 songs. So I do suggest and recommend that fans go check that out. But back to Bill, not back to Bill, but back to George, I should say. His last album, 2017, Party of One, such a great concept. In fact, I'm going to suggest that you give it a shot one day, but he does everything. It is a very stripped down, bare bones, him, guitar, voice. There are some other instruments that he'll throw in there, but it's mainly vocal and guitar. And it's just naked. And it's heartfelt and it's emotional. It's powerful, powerful stuff. And so, great album. I do expect fans to check that out. But before we get to George, when he heads out in shows, ticket sales, $1 from each ticket sold will go to LLS, which is the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And he's also got a T-shirt that says Destroyers with a blood drop. And, of course, 100% of the proceeds of those shirts go to the LLS as well, all in honor of his father-in-law. And I just have to say, kudos to George. Between them and the Bad Wolves, we have an episode of people that just get humanity right. You have to give back. You have to contribute. You have to make a difference. And perhaps I'm speaking out of sorts, but what do you think, Bill? I mean, is it crazy just to give back once in a while?
Oh, I think it's awesome. I'm those guys, that you've mentioned, they've really, they're awesome people. And like I said before in our last segment, God bless them. I mean, it's just what a great thing
stuff
to do.
And the conversation with George, by the way, goes on for about 40 minutes, and we cover everything. But I'll just read this quote. It said, "My awareness of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society began years ago when a close family member was diagnosed with leukemia. In the wake of such devastating news, I felt compelled to lend a hand, and I am honored to join the LLS family in their fight to cure blood cancers. Someday is today." Signed, George Thorogood. And that, to me, speaks volumes for the kind of man that George is. So kudos to him, and kudos to you, Bill, for joining me today. Always appreciated. And wow. And that, by the way, how was that Stones show? I mean, wasn't that great? Back in 81? It was
incredible. I realized after seeing them, I've only seen them once live, and that was it. And that how they are the greatest rock and roll band of all time.
Yeah, they really are.
But George Thorogood came out and kicked major ass.
Yeah, he held his own, and to hold your own against Mick Jagger is no small feat. So let's get to the man who can go toe to toe with Mick Jagger, the one, the only, personal friend, George Thorogood. We are here in Ottawa with George Thorogood. George, pleasure to have you back. Always great to have you in this part of the world. You know what? You do have a show. This is like your 40th year playing Canada. Just talk to me about coming to Canada and what it's like, because it's been 40 years of crazy fans, a lot of passion. Tell me some of those great Montreal moments and Canada moments.
Well, the the experience we had in Montreal was just so unique. The club we played, the Casino, whatever it was called, was an experience I still talk about to this day. It was in '78. And we were hauling our own equipment in those days. We had very minimum equipment. And we pulled up, and there was a line around the block, and we figured that we were at the wrong place.
Right.
And we said, well, who are all these people that are here to see? And we had to elbow our way in, haul our own equipment up there, set it up, do a sound check. So we did the first show, sold out. Next night was sold out, as the next night was too. But after the first show, there was at least a half a dozen, maybe 10 or more people. They weren't drugged out or drunk kids. They were adults, and they wouldn't leave. They wouldn't leave the room. And the club owner went down, speaking in French Canadian, saying, you have to leave. This room has been sold out for 2 or 3 months, and you have to go. Right. They started putting money on the table, so we're not leaving. I said, wait a minute. And then the club owner, I said, well, did you clear them? Because people are waiting in the street for the second show.
The second show.
So, well, we don't want to call the police. I mean, I don't. So the club owner said, would you go up and speak to him? I said, I don't speak French Canadian. I can't even speak Canadian. So I went down there, pleaded with them. No, we're not leaving. Not leaving. So they let them stay. And they paid extra money and stood off in the corner, and they still let the second crowd in. Mitch, that's the first time in my life I ever witnessed that I was trying to talk people into leaving and not watching us play.
Right. Please don't stay. Go away.
Exactly. No, they wouldn't have it. And they were very serious about it. I say, you understand, right? No. I was like, excuse me? And not like a bunch of drunks. You got to throw a drunk out of the place. That happens. But no, not in this case. And we only knew 10 songs. We didn't know, and we're going to play them again the second show. Well, what do you want from me, man? And we started coming back, and we've been coming back ever since. And the reception, in their own way, in other cities in Canada was similar. This was just a unique thing. But we've come here in the dead of winter, played in Kitchener. They don't have a record out.
Doesn't matter.
No matter. I mean, January in Kitchener, 2 nights in a row. We've done places like that, cold, and then the Canadians doesn't bother them. So we were even made honorary citizens of Thunder Bay by the city council, and the mayor gave us an official, you are now honorary citizens of this town. So we got that going for us. So I said, gee, why? We, like I said, sometimes we would leave Montreal, we'd be playing there, and we'd leave to go play other places, Vancouver, Toronto, Ottawa, whatever. We'd say, well, we got to leave. And they'd say, no. I say, yeah, but we have to leave. And they'd say, why? I said, you should stay here. I said, but we've already been here. Said, still stay here. Yeah. I never experienced anything like this. It's not like, see you next year, see you in 2 years. No. Stay.
Now, those were the early days in '78. How important has Canada been over these 40 years for the band in terms of record sales and in terms of just being able to come up in here and tour? I mean, is it one of those places that has sort of put you on the map and helped make the career? Or is it just another place you come and play?
No, it isn't. I'll tell you, because it's tricky when an act leaves their country. It's tricky when you go to other markets, you go to other places. There are certain areas in the world that don't have radio. Like classic radio. There are places that just don't have shows, so it's not worth it to go there. It's all different. Canada, for us, has expanded as the years go on for other cities and other venues that have us play. And it wasn't like some places, they said, well, not that we didn't want you guys, but there was no venue for you to play here. And as the time went on, I'd been coming here regularly, like I say, since '78. And off and on coming back, and it was always great, and it was always this. But it was in 2008 when we came that I really hit me and said, you really got something here. I said, I've never experienced Canada like this before. This is the cities, the response, the venues. I said, I am really enjoying myself here. So I said, let's do it again in 2 years. It can't be that good. And it was better.
Yeah.
And then we said, all right, I'm doing the acid test. Take me back in 2012. It cannot be any better. And it was. So now I don't even ask. I'm afraid to ask.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not even going to open my mouth. I'm just coming back.
Talk to me about that, though, because it seems to me from the fan perspective, my perspective, that you're playing larger venues, more important festivals than the 80s. You've actually gained popularity up here. Is that fair to say?
I would have to say that. I would.
Because
sometimes the venues aren't necessarily bigger or whatever, but they are better.
Right.
More quality.
Right.
Really quality places. And things are expensive in Canada. People pay a lot of money. They want to go to a really good place. They don't want to go to a dump. And our fans are now getting into their 50s, some of them in their 60s. So they have families, they have jobs.
Yeah.
And their energy level isn't what it was when they were 20. So every gig has to be very special. And the promoters and club owners are very hip to that. You know, they're aware of what the fans have to go through to do this. This is a rough country to get around in. This is like New York. We walk across the block. I mean, people, this is a big country. It's a long way.
It's a huge country. And,
it is.
And sometimes the people who route the tours will put like Montreal and Vancouver in the same week on a bus, and you go, we're a bit bigger than
that. They don't get that. They don't get that. I said, no. There's lots of places in between. They don't. I said, well, if the United States is 3,000 miles, it's 4,000 this way. That's an extra 500 on both sides. That's a lot of mileage.
Yeah.
So you got to put in some other places for us to play here.
Yeah.
It's not that we're just say I only want to do 3 cities and get out of here. That isn't the case. Find more places. And our band, who does not mind traveling, and we don't mind traveling at night. That's how we prefer things. A lot of bands said, "Oh, it's too long, it's too far, the travel's too heavy." I said, "But it's worth it." Mitch.
And it's best to travel at night.
Listen to me. People say, but it's so far. And I like to say this, and this is where you can quote me. The road to a friend's house is never too far.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, in fact, let me talk about that travel. 1981-82, the 50-50 tour. Mm-hmm. 50 states, 50 nights. In fact, that ended up being 51 shows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the nation's capital, yeah.
The nation's capital, in a checkered cab, if I'm not mistaken. Talk to me. I mean, was it just a publicity stunt and then it got media traction? You said, oh, shit, we sort of got to do this now? Or was it like, no, I don't care if the media covers it. We're going to do this because that's how you sort of build your that's how you get the engine going and the band
We
going.
just thought it was something interesting to do. You know, the person who drove it said, why don't you play every state the next time you play? You eliminate some of them. I said, yeah, we do. And he said, why don't you do them all? And I said, okay. So we set it up. And after like 4 days into it, he said, gee, it's really good. You're going to do all 50 in a row. And I said, isn't that what you meant? And he said, no, I just meant you do all 50. You can take a couple of days off. And so I'm like, now you tell me.
Could have done it at 100
Now
days.
you tell me. But I'm glad, you know, hey, let me tell you something. We tried to squeeze Canada in there.
Didn't work.
Didn't work. We tried.
But talk to me about that complication, because I just don't see that as being feasible in this day and age with the marketplace and blah, 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 and booking clubs. I mean, how did you get people in Wyoming and people in all these sort of smaller states to open up and say, yeah, we've got a venue for you? How do you route that? How do you organize that? It's baffling to me how, because you pulled it off.
Well,
only band to pull it off.
Well, you got to also think of something in certain states like Montana or Wyoming, certain place like that, North Dakota. They're very sparse places.
Right.
There might be only 2 towns in the major cities in those states.
Right, and they may not have a bar open past 8.
Well, yeah, but we would go into a small town, and because they don't see anything, or they don't see stuff very much, and it would be advertised. We picked your town. Well, we picked your town because of the routing, you know, which made sense. But to the people living there, they felt it was special, which it was.
Which it was.
So we got great response in some of these places. Now, the East Coast is very easy to get from Boston to Rhode Island, from Rhode Island to Connecticut. You know, that's like, all those things are like an hour drive. That was easy. And like I say, some of the places we went to, they were just thrilled to have a rock show coming through their city, which some of the towns had a population of maybe 3,000 people, you know, and they found a place for us to play. They set it up for us. So we were welcome just about everywhere we went.
We did Hawaii, too.
We started there. In Hawaii. You know, we went to Alaska and then flew into Portland, Oregon, and took it from there.
The Bad to the Bone album came out after that tour.
Yeah.
Was it mostly written on that tour? Was the tour the inspiration as you're driving through all these sort of canvases of cityscapes? Did it sort of inspire you, or are they sort of not related at all? Whereas
it was a little bit of it. You know, it was a little bit of it. I wanted to... we played with the Stones and the Jay Giles band, and I noticed when the Stones would do the intro to Honky Tonk Women, or the intro to Brown Sugar, or Start Me Up, and Jay Giles would do the intro to Love Stinks, they got an immediate response from the audience. Huge,
Great
huge, So I said, that's what you need. You need a song like that to get people's attention. As soon as you go, wow. So if you don't come up with something, a song you can hang your hat on.
Yeah.
5-10 years from now, people will just go, Thorogood and the Destroyers, I kind of remember them. What that band was, they were kind of good at playing Chuck Berry or something. See, that's what I was afraid of. I didn't want that to happen. So I was trying to put together a signature riff. The title in itself, I was very fond of lyrics by people like Bo Diddley.
Yep.
Who Do You Love is kind of tongue-in-cheek. And, of course, the lyrics to Jumpin' Jack Flash, very, very flashy, very exotic, very masculine. You know, I wanted something in there to, I said, because nobody's doing that. And by the time I got to the recording or time at that, when we were doing it, a lot of things had already been done. There were no things to say, well, I'll do this. Well, Tom Waits already did that. Jefferson Airplane already did that. I said, what's Bo Diddley's thing? He thinks he's the baddest guy on the planet. So I'm going to go for that. I want to go there and just see what happens with this tune. And trust me, it didn't take off right away. It was just another song in the show. People liked it. But then about 8 years ago, they had a thing called Classic Rock Radio, which was created in your country and our country. Once that happened, in at least 50% of those stations, on the blueprint, the bottom line of the songs they started with first was Whole Lotta Love, which is still on the radio, Jumpin' Jack Flash, Rockin' Me Baby, which rules the airline. I mean, it's on every day. And they threw Bad to the Bone in there. So they put it in people's minds that Bad to the Bone was a classic because they were hearing it in that. What am I trying to say, Mitch? Help me out. They were hearing it. It was almost psychological.
Their mental jukebox.
Exactly. But they were telling you, they were dictating to you what really is a classic.
Well, of course.
And I said,
but the media always dictates.
Well, don't they have a television show called Turner Classic Movies?
Yes, of course.
Okay, now someone who's never seen Casablanca, they go, oh, that's a classic. Then they'll show maybe Die Hard by Bruce Willis. But the young people, the older people say, well, that's not a classic, Casablanca is. But the young people who have never seen either of them, they're both classics.
They're classics, that's right.
You see? Because people are dictating to them, you know, what is. So that was the big break with that tune. They got that thing on there. And then after a while, they had radio shows called that. You know, they had, it was just that's what really kicked it off for us with that tune.
With that tune,
we were already
and
doing
that album.
We were already doing Too Good with Bourbon, Scotch, and Beer. Moving on over, they were being played on the radio often. And Who Do You Love snuck in there. Bad to the Bone came out. Like I said, it was 8 years we were playing it, and it was okay. Nobody booed. People liked it. But when it got on in that format, I should say, and everybody was doing it at the same time. It wasn't like one station did it, then they said, okay, we will too. Everybody said, oh yeah, it's got all the ear makings of a classic. I said, I'll take it. That's what I want. Who doesn't want to grow up to be the next Ray Charles? You know what I mean? It's not an embarrassment to me, trust me.
Can you imagine? It's been 36 years since that album time. Party of One, the new album. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about this concept. It's just you and the instruments and the voice and the songs, and that's it.
Well, it was long overdue because when I first started, I played alone. I didn't have a band, but I was thinking about it. Right. And I said, if I'm going to do this, I should be recording a solo record now, like everybody else did. Everybody starts out on acoustic. Dylan, Springsteen, Crosby, Stills and Nash, the Byrds, Mamas and the Papas, they all do that. You know, John Sebastian, they start out as an acoustic act. And I said, then I'll move on to the next level. But that didn't quite work out. Plus, I didn't have a record company.
Right.
I didn't have anybody. So I said, well, I can't play acoustic anymore. I just can't do it. I wasn't that good anyway. I mean, sitting down playing 3 or 4 songs at a party, entertaining a whole audience by yourself for an hour, hour and a half, alone, that's hard. There's only one Taj Mahal.
Right.
Okay? And I'm not it.
Right.
So when I got the electric guitar and the drums and all, I said, oh, yeah, now we're getting somewhere. Yeah. But we just kept putting it off with Rounder, and some of the record labels weren't interested in that. Excuse me. And as time went on, Rounder and I would get in touch with each other and said, you know, still never got around to doing that acoustic record. Well, lo and behold, as time went on, Rounder went from here to here to here to here. Now they're a major force. They're a big player now. Yeah. And when they said, you know, we'd still like to do that record, I said, you're 100 times bigger than when I started with you. And we're not doing too bad either. So maybe this is the time to do it. So that's what was behind that project. And Scott, who's the president, was very enthusiastic about it, helped us out, sending us tunes, and he was very patient about it. It took me about a year and a half to finally get it done.
Right.
Because I had to stop, go on the road with the band, do other things with my hands, find some more material. Oh, this song's not working. It's not as easy as people think. And he was patient. He said, no, I can't rush you. It's going to be ready when it's ready. He said, I'd rather wait longer for it to be better than putting it out. It's just okay. There's no rush.
There's no rush.
No rush.
Talk to me about the challenge, though, because you have the drums, you have the electric guitar, you have a band behind you, and now it's just you, friend, for the lack of a better word, naked. You're just there. Artistically, though, what kind of challenge was that? Was it something that you were like excited for, and it's like, man, this is great. I'm discovering a new tone and a new voice and a new, or was it like, man, I can't wait to get back to the band here. Where are my boys?
It was more like this, Mitch. It was like, it wasn't a challenge artistically. It was a challenge physically to get my hands, because I'd been playing this for so long and playing Bad to the Bone, Who Do You Love for so long. I had to go back into time and teach my hands to do what I was doing 40 years ago. Now, that's impossible. It's like going back to the closet and putting on a pair of shoes you haven't worn since high school. Right. All right. And that was a difficult part. So sometimes I had to stop the song midway through it. And I'd say, we can't splice it together like the other thing. You got to play the thing all the way. You can't do that kind of thing. I said, I understand that, but this is going to take a little time. My hands are tired. Sometimes I had to wait as long as an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Now, you can't do that when you're playing live. So if that's tough. Right. In the studio, I had some very good people around me saying, okay, take your time, do this. And the thing is, when you get on one tune emotionally, you say, well, that was not working, let's move on to a different tune. Well, that doesn't work so good. When you're into a thing you got to do, but I had to wait till my hands, the blood kept coming, and then sometimes I'd say, I got to go home and rest. I'm not used to this. When my hands go, I have a second guitarist who's brilliant. I won't call him a second guitarist. So I have a guitarist who knows what he's doing and knows his role, that I can, fall out for a while and he can pick up the slack or just keep it going. Well, you don't have that when you're playing alone. That's why I stopped doing it.
Is it a challenge that you would like to do again? Would you like to do a part two?
No, and no.
No party of two?
No rock party. No party of one, part two.
No party of one, part two.
No. This is it. This is my statement, and I think that would be the best way. That'll make it more special.
Over the years and on the Party of One, you've covered many artists. Talk to me about what makes a great song in terms of, for your ear, is it lyrically? What is the one that sort of stand out, and why?
Well, there's a lot of elements in a song that can attract you. Right. The title, the riff, the lyrics. If you've got all three taken care of, a great riff, great title, great lyrics, you got a hit song. Some of them got good lyrics, but the music is dynamite, but the lyrics are kind of light. Yeah. I'm very critical. Not like people think when they go, George just goes in there, gets a 6-pack of beer, and just wails and has a party. Like, nothing could be farther from the truth. Right. No, I go in there and say all the elements have to be there. And sometimes I have to take the word of others who say, you are really missing a chance. You're making a mistake not doing this song. And I would say, okay, in theory that makes sense, but I can't play it. Right. My hands won't do it. Right. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And I don't have Jim Suler, our guitarist. He can play it, and I'll just sing it. See what I'm saying? I didn't have that. So there was that element involved. Can George play it? Right. And he has to play. Can't have anybody else. Has to be him. The material has to be attractive, catchy, whatever. Lyrics, title, whatever. Now, you're talking about 12 you can't solve those and say, stop, said, hey, listen, I'm coming out. You guys know any good instrumentals? To fill out the record,
do saber dance
exactly for 8 minutes, right?
The extended saber dance,
exactly. Well, I didn't have that luxury here, so that's why it took a little bit of time. And sometimes I'd be in a room and say, I should have done this song, and I'd call up Scott from Rounder and say, what about this? And they'd say, what about this tune? We got an idea. I said, well, send it over. I'll listen, see if I can play it. I said, remember, I have to be able to play it, not Jeff or Blau or Suler. Because they can play anything. I said, I have to be able to play it. And, I can't, and I don't want it to be too much of a struggle, Mitch. I don't want it to be, I always say, I don't mind working hard, but I don't like hard work.
Right. Is it, right? And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I was talking to John Waite the other day. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about some of the songs he did in the past, and he said, you know what? This guy, and I'm not going to say his name, but he said, he sent in a great song. but the lyrics were all wrong.
Yeah, there you go.
He said the song was perfect, but I had to rewrite the lyrics.
Yeah.
How do you approach writing your own songs? What comes first? Is it the riff first, and then you try to fit lyrics into sort of the
Could come either way. For me, we came up with Gear Jammer fast.
Right.
And somebody came and said, you got to get some lyrics together. And I was like, because it was just moving. Actually, we played Bad to the Bone long before I put a title or any song. So I said, man, I discovered the key of G, and it was really working. I said, now, I put together another song, Born to Be Bad. Good title, good lyrics, the music. I said, I wish I had Jim Solar in the studio. Now I know why people work as teams.
Right.
I would like to go into, if I worked with a team, I said, listen, I'll take care of the title, I'll take care of the lyrics, you put together the music. Because my ear is not that good. This chord should be here. Or here's a good riff to put to it. Like, what grabs you first? As soon as you hear, you're cooked.
You're cooked.
That's why they call it a hook.
Right.
Because they got you. So there are songs, and then some of them you come up and say, that's a great title, it's a great idea, good lyrics. And then they come to me and say, well, why don't you write it? I said, because I can't come up with the music. I can come up with the other stuff. Like, I think it was Elton John and his partner co-wrote.
Bernie, Taupin.
Yeah, one of them does the lyrics, and the other one does the music. And I think that's how Lieber and Stoller worked.
Yeah.
I think that was their thing, and Jagger and Richards. I said, well, I tell you, I didn't.
Lennon and McCartney.
Actually, Paul wrote his own stuff.
Yeah, he wrote it.
So they just kind of, it was a brand.
It was a brand.
And then Lennon would say, well, why don't you put this in there or that in there? They did work in that sense. But to really do a team, I would say, I need a musicologist. I need someone to sit in here and say, here's the lyrics, here's the title, we'll split it 50-50. You come up with the music. Make sure it's a key I can sing it.
Right.
Just make sure of that. Yeah, means...
Don't make a high-pitched squeal.
But most singers can't sing in any key.
Right.
But great musicians can play in any key. That's
a problem.
That's the guy you want in your band.
Is it a craft that you still work on, though, or are you gotten to a point where you know you could wake up tomorrow morning and write a great song, you can bang one out, or is it something that you still look at other people's lyrics and you still look at other people and you still sort of honing the craft, or is it, no, I'm George, I'm 68 now? I've got it.
If I woke up, Mitch, in the morning and I said, I've come up with it, I've heard music, not only mine, but long before that.
Right.
I'm a good judge of what's a good song and what isn't.
Right.
We all know that All Shook Up by Elvis Presley is a great song. We all know that Georgia on My Mind is a great song. It doesn't take a genius to figure that stuff out. So I know a hit when I hear it, or a good song. If I woke up in the morning at this point and I came up with a song that I thought I'd be in the studio within an hour if I came up with it.
Yeah.
Now, if I don't, so you're no worse off. You're no worse off doing your catalog, because 90% of the people that buy the ticket, that's what they want to hear anyway.
Right.
So that's a nice spot to get to. If you can get to that spot, I'm fond of saying if you got one song, you can work forever. You got 3 songs, you got a career. You got 5 songs, you got a very good career. Forget about Dylan, McCartney, the Stones.
But it's true, though.
Yeah, but they're rarities. Every song they have, it doesn't matter what you play. Not every act is blessed like that. Usually you got a handful of them, and you come to here, and then you fill in the show with other things.
But you're right. I'm just going through the mental Rolodex of what we call heritage act these days, whether it's Night Ranger or Styx or Kiss, and you go there to hear 2 or 3 songs. You go there to hear Rock and Roll All Night. You go there to hear Lady. You go there to...
That's enough to keep working.
It is.
That's enough to keep going.
It's amazing, though, right, to think?
Yeah. If I'm sitting there and I sit there and I go... I talk to John Fogerty often. We sit there and he says this Saturday night. I go, John, shut up. Are you out of your mind? You know what kind of catalog you have? Do you know how many songs you have?
Yep.
You know how many songs I have? You can count them on one hand. I need 10 hands to count your songs. That's how many you got. And you're sitting there whining to me? You got to be out of your mind. They're all great. I mean, I always stop him in his tracks and say, I don't want to hear from you anymore. Do you know who came to see you play? And he said, well, I did this festival. I said, no. Do you know who came to see you play? The Beatles. All 4 of them. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear how hard you have it. The Beatles came to see you and you have that catalog? Come on, Mitch. Let's put it in perspective over here.
Yep.
So I go see Tom Jones as often as I can. He always does What's New Pussycat, and he always does it. It's not unusual, and he loves it. He's not putting in the motions. He loves it that he got those songs. And, of course, he has Delilah. He has, Green Grass at Home. He has She's a Lady.
Yeah.
He has other tunes. But when you see him doing those tunes, people say, God, isn't he tired of that since 65? I said, no, he's not tired of it. He's probably thrilled. That's what made him. I can see it in his eyes. I can see it. He's loving it. I know that Stones played Jumpin' Jack Flash last time. They played it for 15 minutes. Why wouldn't they? I mean, come on. It's the greatest rock and roll song ever, and they wrote it. Why wouldn't they love it?
Of course.
So I'm on a much different level. I'm still of that mindset to say, oh, I want to go out there and do, I wish I could just go ripping right through it like Fogerty could, or Dylan. With all those great songs. McCartney, he didn't. They go, well, what's he going to play? I go, does it matter? When you go see Paul, you don't care.
You don't care.
It's the greatest catalog on the planet.
And he does like a 36-song set.
Yeah, but they're short songs.
Yeah, they're 2 minutes. So.
But still. And
it's still a 60-minute concert.
If you whittle it down. But you never hear the same set twice. You do hear a lot of the same songs.
Yeah.
But he does mix it up, as the Stones do. They mix it up, but you always will hear Brown Sugar. You always hear Jumpin' Jack Flash, Honky Tonk, Start Me Up, Satisfaction. You always hear them. And then they include 2 or 3 other ones they didn't do the last time they came through.
Right.
And Paul's pretty much the same way. He'll get you. Last time I saw him, he led off with A Hard Day's Night. Great. But he always does Hey Jude. And he always does Yesterday. And he does those. Those are monster songs. I said, if some people put out monster songs, every song the Beatles do is King Kong. The biggest monster songs. And that's very fortunate. I'm so glad that Paul is taking care of his health, his voice.
Yep.
And another thing I like about that is to go see him, that when the Beatles retired playing live in 66, the equipment in those days was so bad. They were designed for high school bands. And the technology was not there that they could perform. So he lived long enough where they created sound systems and instruments and synthesizers so he can go out and do his catalog. Finally, technology has caught up to the Beatles, not the other way around. So I'm so glad, Paul, your experience, what we experienced. When you were on stage, we couldn't hear you. You couldn't hear anything. That's why you guys stopped. And it wasn't just because people were screaming, which they were. The equipment was, the amplifiers were this, it was a nightmare for them. Why do you think they stopped? It was just too much to deal with. So later when things started to come around, he stuck it out, and now he must be in just heaven. I can see it. I've seen him 5 times now.
It's always a great show.
Yeah, always. Never lets him. He's never going to let people forget the Beatles. Never. And as good as the Beatles are, that's the harder the Stones work. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Are you with me?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
They always have to play catch up. Yeah.
Well, they're right there. They might not get there, but that's what keeps them. That's what keeps the hammer down. I got to see McCartney and the Stones within 2 days.
Well, you opened for the Stones on top of that, so
the Stones now. Well, you see the Stones now are not the Stones that I saw when I worked with them.
Right.
The Stones now.
It was Stones, Prince, and you, right?
One night, yeah. We worked with various acts. What
a combination! That must have just.
But the Stones really turned it around after that. They started to really get their, for lack of a word, their shit together.
Yeah.
And now they're a force to be reckoned with. Ron Wood is playing greater than he ever played in his life, and Keith Richards is right on. I think they straightened out their lives personally, chemically. Whatever. And physically, Jagger's kept it together. I mean, the guy weighs the same as he did in 64.
Which is unbelievable.
He looks like a teenage cheerleader.
He does.
It's fantastic.
I don't know how he does it. It's embarrassing to me because I don't look at me.
Yeah, it takes hard work.
Right.
You can't just say, yes, but Mick was born that way. Yes, he was. But to sustain it for 50 years, you have to work at that. Take it from me. I look at food, I put on weight. We all do after we turn 50.
Yep.
That's just the life. That's the way.
That's this year for me, by the way.
See, there it goes. Why do you think so many doctors say to you when you're 51, 52, no matter what condition you're in, they said, you have to change your diet and get some exercise? Because your body changes. It stops. It doesn't process donuts. So now you have to eat apples. Right. Okay? And nowadays, you got to get up and move around to keep that blood circulating. It's not like when you were 25. And sadly, not too many people listen to that. Jagger has, but he's always been doing it. From day one. It's not something you just
Which is remarkable because given the rock and roll context, you can have pizza every night and beer every night. You can get off that train. Let me start wrapping this up here. You're doing two things. $1 per ticket for LLS, which is Leukemia Lymphoma Society. Talk to me about doing that, because you're in a position where you have fans come out, people are buying tickets, and it's so nice to give back. You don't have to give back, and a lot of folks don't, but you do. Talk to me about that LLS and the importance of giving back, the importance of saying, yeah, you know what, I'm going to give this $1 to you and help out.
Well, the importance is there's never going to be enough cash to do research for diseases, no matter what those diseases are, whether they're curable or whether they're non-curable. And if our governments work properly, the money that we pay in taxes, which is a lot, that money should be going into those things.
Right.
Researching these diseases.
Because that would actually save us money in the long run.
It would, because people live better.
Right.
They'll live better, they'll live longer. You know, and people say, "Oh, I don't want to pay taxes for this kind of thing." I said, "Well, okay. Well, suppose there's some kid at 11 years old, comes up with an incurable cancer that we can't cure, and that kid could grow up to be president someday,
right? Yeah.
Or that kid could grow up to cure a disease, or become the most famous pianist of all time.
Yes.
You got to think in those terms. At least I do.
Well,
this is an investment for the future of the planet.
Yes.
You know, I said, it's a sad state of affairs when a drunken rocker steps up and says, "I'll help."
Right.
So wait a minute. I'm just a guitar player. I'm not a politician. I'm not a scientist or a doctor. You know, I said, you people should be doing this. You know, so it's just a no-brainer to me. I would like, if I was in charge, I would say, why don't we just get a fund where the money goes in for all diseases? A catch-all, so to speak.
That actually, in Quebec, we have what we call a generations fund. And part of our taxes go to the generations fund. And the theory on that one was our debt was getting so big that the next generation is not going to be able to pay for it. So we have this generation fund. And that should be the same kind of fund. There should be this generations fund that helps out not just with the debt, but with cancer and with those.
You have to be able to be bright enough to invest in the future. And you can't invest in the future if the future's sick, or they fear of getting sick, or they get something. I think it really starts with the, what do you call it, the ecologist. There's, not in your country, I'm very impressed with your country. I'm very impressed. When I drive around the States a lot, I said, don't people have any brains or pride? Look at all this litter. You're throwing litter in the streets. Now, a lot of people can't pick it up. A lot of it's not biodegradable, whatever. So it rots. Then it goes into the ground. And then it gets into our water system. And then children start drinking it. And they get diseases from this. And that's why cancer's like it is now. It wasn't like it was 50 years ago. It's all over the place now. Why? Because of the air we breathe, the foods we eat, the garbage that people throw into the oceans, the fish eat, and then we eat the fish. And it gets into our system, and it gets into our children's system. So how are you supposed to survive? I said, you're just ruining it for yourself. Don't you want your grandchildren to grow up to be the most brilliant people on the planet? Well, of course you do. That's why you have socialized medicine, so they can get a chance. I'll pay. Hey, I'll pay. If it keeps 5 people get the same break for dental care as one rich person, and the kids can't help it if their parents don't have money. It's not their fault.
Yeah, I mean,
it just seems so easy to me.
And how can I put this? But the Canadian perspective, when I see somebody on Facebook or something that in the States that has a cancer and they have to have, a special benefit gala or something, I'm like, a benefit gala?
Right.
Why don't you just go to the doctor?
Yeah.
Like, it baffles my mind.
I see, I see people firsthand saying, well, that people who are poor and don't have insurance for this. They're shit out of luck. They're going to die.
Yes.
They're going to die in 6 months. So you're saying that only rich people should survive. That's basically what you're telling us.
That's the new Darwin. The survival of the fittest is your bank account.
But the fit should be helping out the unfit.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Well, especially since the unfit, sometimes it's not their fault. I mean, you're not...
Again, I've been to enough pediatric places where kids are dying of AIDS and never had any drugs, never had any sex, but they got it. Kids dying of cancer.
Or multiple sclerosis.
Or anything. I said they didn't...
It's not because they're lazy and didn't go to school.
Exactly. This is not their fault.
It's not their fault.
So I'm going to put some cash in here and take care of them. Hey, maybe one of them will survive and grow up and become a promoter and hire me.
Yes.
How about that?
Yes. And let me come in and interview you. And now I'll wrap up with these things. Record Store Day, you just put out a single. Talk to me about the importance of that and supporting because it really supports moms and pop stores. It's I don't want to say it's against the big boxes and against, but it really helps, the community store, and it builds a community within the fan base. Talk to me about putting out that single and sort of being part of the RSD moment.
Well, I'll tell you, that's come new to my attention, Mitch.
Right.
That's new to me, that they explain these things, records, because I'm way behind the times, because I'm working on a guitar, I'm working on things, and I have to have people around like you to hit me, what's going on today, George? I'll say, why don't we do this? And they go, George, they don't even make those kind of amplifiers anymore. You see, I have to have people to keep me up to date. Like a senator has a staff.
Right.
Who tells them, this is what's happening now, this is what's happening. Well, the single for me, to begin with, to be honest, was very self-serving.
Right.
I heard the song, I loved it, I wanted to put it in the show, and then the powers to be, the rest of the people in the organization, they took it to the next level. Rounder did it. And then, of course, Adam and Hut hit me to Record Store Day, and I'm thinking, was it every day Record Store Day? He goes, no, they don't make records anymore. That's why it's Record Store Day. You're not getting it. I said, well, good, I'll just make the music.
And you do the other stuff.
I'm just a guitar player, Mitch,
Yeah.
And I'm struggling just to do that. You want to give me all the credit in the world, that's one thing, but I'll get out there and do the band thing and all that, then talk to Mitch and all that. But I'm relying on you folks to put your ear to the street and see what's happening good and what's happening bad, and sift it all through. And I can't be sit there and take credit of all these new things or great things that are happening. Who can keep track of it all? Good and bad.
Yeah.
So you need help.
Yeah.
You need help. So if anybody needs help, it's yours truly.
But it's nice. It's nice to see part of that and stuff. And I know we got the sign to wrap up, so I'll finish with this. As we speak right now, your New York Mets are number 1, the National League East.
Yes.
Are we going to have the same conversation in September?
Probably not.
No.
So let's have it now.
But are you hopeful?
I'm a person that lives in the present.
Right.
I know what I got right now. Hey, how about this? I ate today. Okay. What's going to happen tomorrow? I don't know.
No.
So I'm just enjoying what's happening now.
But it's great though, right? It's not. Baseball keeps you young. I mean, music, baseball, sports. Between baseball, hockey, listening to you, listening to.
The unique thing about that particular game is, this is why gamblers don't like it, professional gamblers. It's too unpredictable.
Very much so.
That's why they stay away from it. And that's why I like it. I said, most people in the world, they pick up a book, a really great mystery, and they want to read the last chapter first to see how it comes out.
In case
I said,
die.
well, baseball doesn't work that way. There's going to be a fourth quarter, 8 seconds left, and all the bad boys are going to be trying to get that. I said, baseball, it's too unpredictable. You just don't know. And that's why a lot of people I've known just said, that's why I don't like it. I said, that's why I do like it. I like sitting there not knowing what's going to happen.
Well, that's what I like, that it's never over. When you're watching a hockey game or a football game, and there's, like you said, 8 seconds to go, and the team's up 3-0.
Yeah.
Well, they're not going to score 3 goals in 8 seconds, so you go home.
Not.
In baseball, it could be 2 outs, 2 strikes, 9th inning, you're down 3 runs.
That's right.
And it could,
turn around like that.
Half an hour later, it could be.
You could have an 8-run lead in the first inning. We got this one wrapped up. All of a sudden, it's 10-8 in the 5th inning.
Yeah.
And you're behind.
Yeah. and quite frankly, sitting out in the sun, just with the smell of it's just the perfect.
How did they, now, I watch baseball a lot on television.
Yeah.
Now, how did they plan this? This is God's work at best.
Yeah.
At best. The inning's over. And before the next hitter comes up, they throw the ball around the infield. The pitcher takes 5 warm-up pitches. How come, Mitch? I don't know about ladies, but I know about guys. How come in that small period of time, it's actually the perfect time, and it takes just as much time to get up, go to the bathroom, do what you got to do, and you come back and you do not miss a thing? How do they time that?
I think they timed it like that. They must have had people go to the bathroom.
Yeah, but some people have a longer bathroom to walk to, and some people have to do something different. It's unbelievable. And no one says, I got to get back. No, it always works out that way. So I come back and I go, how did God figure that out? How can you not like this game? So I'm fond of saying, when the World Series ends, and the last out is made, I always say this, last out it made, all of a sudden, it's 20 degrees colder.
It is. It really is.
And you sit there, I don't care where you are, you could be in Detroit, or you could be in Philadelphia.
And it's darker, too.
After the first pitch is thrown on opening day, it's 15 degrees warmer.
Yes, I fully agree.
Am I wrong?
No, I fully
And
agree.
that's the beauty of it.
When the
all of a
Montreal
sudden,
Expo
as soon as they
there-
throw the first pitch, you take off your jacket. You go, oh yeah, it's here. Ah yeah. Who cares? You see, to me, the season starts the second day of the season. Opening day doesn't count. It doesn't count.
Yeah, especially this year.
That's the celebration. Yeah, but that's the celebration. Yeah, I've been at opening day games a lot. I go to them a lot. You got to experience opening day in Dodger Stadium. It's nothing like it. And I've been to a lot of them. They're all good. Something special there. When opening day, after the first pitch is thrown, the eruption of people applauding, even if the guy throws it over the backstop or it's a ball, the eruption when the first pitch happens, and you always turn to a stranger or turns to you and goes, all right, yeah, okay, all right.
See, I got to experience that.
See.
I did opening days in the Northeast, a lot of Montreal, and after the first pitch, you'd go, oh, it's really fucking cold. Can I go home now?
Yeah.
So I need to experience Southern California.
Well, I've been other places too. I've been in Philly on opening day. I've been in Boston,
Yeah,
places
you sit there
like
going,
that.
Can we go home yet?
But then they're not real baseball fans. They're not real baseball fans.
Well, a big O. Anyway.
If you go outside and it's about 29 degrees, right? It's cold. The wind's blowing. It's cold.
Fahrenheit.
And a woman comes up to you and says, "Out here, outside, right now, I want to make passionate love to you." Do you say, "Oh no, it's too cold"?
No,
you don't.
you don't.
So that's baseball to me. I said it's never going to be too cold for a baseball game for George Thorogood.
Yeah. There you go. I know we have to go, so thank you so much.
You're welcome,
Always
Mitch,
a pleasure.
as always.
Always.
This is Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Mitch Lafon.